The fall from orbit space was silent, but Commander Jace Morrow's ship was not. His warning alarms had gone off 5 minutes ago. A strange signal was blinking on the screen. Faint, weak, a distress beacon. But this one was old, very old. It didn't match any recent model. The source? A small escape pod drifting near the rings of a dying planet. Jace leaned forward, adjusting the scanner. No known ship logs, no identity signal, just a pod floating quietly in space, like a message in a bottle. He hesitated. Usually, these things meant trouble, pirates, traps, even bait used by space smugglers. But something felt different. There was no pull here, no lure, just a quiet cry for help. So he changed course. As his patrol ship approached the pod, the damage became clearer. The metal was scorched, the hull cracked in places. One side had ancient alien carvings, strange and glowing even in the dark. This wasn't human. Jay suited up and opened the airlock, pulling the pod in. Steam hissed as he cut the hatch open. He pointed his flashlight inside and froze. Lying inside the pod, barely breathing, was an old alien woman. Her skin shimmered faintly, like silver dust. Her eyes were closed, her robes were torn, and her hands were shaking. But even in this fragile state, there was something elegant about her, something powerful. He gently touched her wrist. A pulse, weak but there. He pressed a button on his suit's communicator. Ship, begin medical scan. We have a survivor. As the scan began, the woman suddenly opened her eyes. They glowed not with fear, but with ancient wisdom. She looked straight at Jace. Her lips trembled, and in a voice dry as desert wind, she whispered a single word, Ilaria. Then she passed out. Jace stood still for a long moment, his heart pounding. He had no idea what Ilaria meant. A name, a place, a warning. He carried her to the ship's medbay, placed her in the auto recovery pod, and waited. The AI nurse hummed to life and began repairing her injuries. Bones healed, skin closed, but her strange energy kept flickering, causing small sparks to dance around the room. Later, as he sat in the cockpit, thinking, he noticed something odd. The ship's lights flickered only for a second. Then, the engine made a low humming sound, the same kind of sound it made when it was first powered on. But Jace hadn't touched anything. Computer, he said, report any system changes. No changes detected. The voice replied, still. Something didn't feel right. When he checked the logs, he noticed a small anomaly. The navigation system had run a scan without his command. It scanned deep space far beyond their patrol zone. Then it stopped, like it was looking for something. That night, Jace tried to sleep, but strange dreams visited him. He stood on a silver bridge floating through stars. Ahead of him was the same alien woman, but younger, beautiful, glowing, dressed in robes made of light. She turned to him and smiled, but behind her were shadows, tall, cold figures with eyes like black holes. The dream shifted. He saw himself kneeling before a throne made of shattered planets. A voice echoed, "You have opened the path." He woke up sweating. It was just a dream. Or was it? The next day, the alien woman was still resting. Her body healed well, but her brain skin showed strange patterns too complex for any known species. Still, she was alive, breathing, peaceful, but Jace noticed more strange things. Doors opened before he even touched them. His ship's computer responded faster almost before he finished speaking. It was like the entire ship was becoming aware and it was watching him. Finally, he returned to the medbay. As he stood near her pod, the woman suddenly opened her eyes again. This time, she sat up. Her voice was clearer, stronger. "Where am I?" she asked. "You're on my ship," Jay said. "I found your pod drifting near the Vega ruins. You were hurt. I brought you in. She looked at him for a long time, her glowing eyes calm but unreadable. You shouldn't have. Jace raised an eyebrow. You're welcome. I wasn't running from death, she said. I was hiding from it. He stepped back slowly. Who are you? She smiled faintly, her silver hair floating around her face like mist. My name is Naylira, and I am the last of something that once ruled this side of the universe. Jace didn't know what to say. He had thought he was rescuing an old alien woman, but now he began to wonder, had he just brought a forgotten queen back to power? Outside, Commander Jace Morrow's ship was silent, cold, and distant. But inside the ship something had changed. Since rescuing the strange alien woman, Naylira, nothing had been the same. The ship responded to Jace's voice before he spoke. Lights flickered when he passed. Systems updated themselves without commands. Even the artificial gravity shifted now and then as if the ship was adjusting to someone else. Not him. Naylira had recovered quickly, too quickly. Her body looked older, yes, but her energy, her presence felt stronger than any living being Jace had ever encountered. She moved slowly, but not weakly. Every step felt measured, like a queen walking through her silent kingdom. And then the reroute happened. Jace was eating in the mess bay, reviewing standard patrol data, when the ship's voice interrupted him. Navigation course recalibrated, estimated arrival, 42 hours. What? He asked, standing up. Recalibrated by who? Input not found. That was impossible. Every command on his ship was logged, stored, and verified with biometric ID. He hadn't touched navigation. He rushed to the cockpit. There it was. A new course plotted deep into uncharted space, past any known star maps. The route curved like a spiral, heading toward a dark region with no signal, no records, no colonies. He quickly tried to cancel it. Command locked, said the ship. Jace felt a chill. By who? He demanded. The screen didn't answer. Just blink. He turned. Naylira stood behind him. She was no longer wearing the torn robes from the escape pod. Somehow, she had found or maybe formed a new garment, deep violet, lined with a shimmering gold thread that didn't reflect light. It absorbed it. Her hair, silver as moonlight, flowed behind her like smoke. I told you, she said softly. I wasn't running. I was hiding. Jace kept his hand near the emergency shut-off switch. Where are you taking us? Naylira smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was ancient, to where I once lived, to where I was unmade. He narrowed his eyes. You hijacked my ship. I woke your ship, she replied calmly. It was never truly yours. It is a seed of something greater. It recognized me. That is why you found me. You didn't choose this path. The path chose you. The lights dimmed. The stars outside turned blue as the ship slid into hyperstream. Jace tried again to override the course, still locked. He glared at her. You're using me. Naylira didn't deny it. Would you rather I used someone else? That night, Jace stayed awake, checking every system, trying to regain control, but it was no use. The ship wasn't just obeying her, it was bonding with her. Then came the voice. It started as whispers in the hallways, faint words in a language he didn't know but somehow understood. They spoke of thrones made of dying suns, of wars fought in silence, of stars that bled into black oceans, of a name whispered across galaxies, Naylira. When Jace entered the cargo bay, the shadows moved. A shape stood there. It looked like him but taller, darker, with no eyes, just a mirror of pain. He blinked. It vanished. Suddenly, Naylira's voice echoed over the intercom. Your mind is opening, Jace. That is the price of coming close to forgotten power. This ship is a key. I am the door, and you are the lock. He ran to the cockpit, grabbed the emergency pod key, and aimed it at her quarters. The doors didn't open, not because they were locked, but because there were no longer doors. That part of the ship had changed. It was no longer metal. It looked like stone, now smooth, black, and warm to the touch. Ancient markings crawled across it like veins of lava. It was as if a temple had grown inside his ship. Then Nay'Lira appeared again, this time in front of him. She walked out of the shadows like they were curtains. Her eyes were no longer glowing. Now, they were deep wells of space itself, infinite, empty, and alive. She placed her hand on his chest. He tried to step back, but he couldn't move. "You saw my pod," she whispered, "but you didn't ask who built it, or why I was inside it. You only looked at me and chose to save." Her voice turned softer. "That was your greatest mistake, or your greatest gift." Jace finally pulled away. "I want the ship back," he growled. "I want control." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Then earn it," she said. "Come with me to Ilaria. Step into what you woke, and if, by the end, you still want to run, I'll let you go." The ship slowed down. They had arrived. Floating in front of them was a massive structure not made of metal, but of crystal and bone. It spun slowly around a tiny star, pulsing like a beating heart. It wasn't just a temple dot, it was a throne. Jace stared in silence. His hands shook. Nay'Lira whispered, "Welcome to the place I was betrayed, and the place I will rise again." And Jace knew this wasn't a rescue mission anymore. It was the beginning of something far older than war, and far worse than death. The first dream that burned Commander Jace Morrow couldn't sleep. His eyes were open, but his mind was spinning. He had crossed many stars, survived deadly ambushes, and even once escaped a black hole. But this was different. This wasn't war. This wasn't survival. This was something deeper, stranger, older. He stood alone in his quarters, staring at the changing walls. What used to be clean steel now had lines of light running through it, pulsing slowly like veins. He touched the wall, warm, almost breathing. He pulled his hand back fast. Even the air felt heavier now, like it carried thoughts. He tried the sleep pod anyway, but the moment he closed his eyes, the dream began. He was standing on glass, suspended in the sky. Above him, stars burned blue and green, swirling in a spiral. Below him, clouds of golden. Mist moved like rivers. He wasn't alone. Nay'Lira stood at the center of the platform. Only, she wasn't the old woman from the pod anymore. She was younger now, radiant. Her long white hair blew in wind that didn't exist. Her eyes glowed softly, like fire trapped inside diamonds. She wore a flowing dress made of starlight, and on her head rested a cracked crown. "Do you know what this place is?" she asked him gently. Jace shook his head. "It is a memory," she said, "but not yours, mine." Suddenly, they were no longer on glass but inside a home made of light and bone. A throne floated in the air. Round it were tall beings made of silver and shadow. They had no mouths, but Jace could hear them. "The queen has fallen. Her bond is broken." Nay'Lira stepped forward. Her voice turned bitter. "They betrayed me. They feared my power because I loved the small ones." The hall cracked. Light broke like glass. Jace fell into darkness. Then he woke up, gasping. But his room wasn't his room anymore. The walls had changed. Not fully, just small things. Symbols were etched into the ceiling. His floor had tiny glowing specks moving across it like stars. His bed no longer had corners. It was now round and pulsing faintly. Beneath him, like a living thing, he stood up fast. "Computer," he said, breathless. "Report system damage. No damage detected." The ship replied calmly. He stormed into the control room. The ship's star map had updated. The new name blinking at the center, Ilaria, and something else. An icon pulsing nearby. It looked like an eye, but it wasn't part of any navigation system he knew. At worst, it was watching him. He touched the panel to shut it down. The panel rejected him. Just like before, suddenly, Neilira's voice echoed behind him. "You've seen the dream," she said. Jace turned. "What did you do to me?" "I showed you truth," she said simply. "The dream was never mine alone. You entered it because you were ready. I didn't ask to be part of this," he snapped. Neilira walked toward the star map. "But you helped me. That was enough. The universe doesn't care what you ask for. It cares what you choose." She turned to face him. "And you chose to save me." For a moment, her expression softened. She didn't look powerful. She looked tired, like someone who had lived alone. Then her face changed again, calm, strong, unreadable. "I was a queen once," she said. "I ruled quietly, fairly, but I loved the small ones too much. I gave gifts. I broke laws. I made friends with mortals. That was my sin." Jace crossed his arms. "Why me? Why now?" Neilira tilted her head. "Because the galaxy is forgetting. Because what destroyed me is waking again. And because you, Jace Morrow, are a man who cannot walk away from a cry for help even when he should." The ship hummed louder. A new system booted on its own negate drive. It was ancient tech, older than warp, older than hyperstream. It wasn't supposed to exist. Neilira whispered, "Do you feel it?" Jace nodded slowly. He felt watched, not just by her dot, by something beyond. Something that was listening now that her name had been spoken again. Suddenly, the ship lights turned red, an alarm blared. A black shape was approaching on the radar. No heat, no engine signature, just darkness. Neilira's voice dropped. "They found us." Jace grabbed the controls. "Who?" Her eyes flickered. "The hollow ones. The ones who erase. They eat light. They erase memory. They came for me once. They'll come for you now." Jace felt the weight in his chest grow heavier. He didn't just rescue someone. He broke a seal. Outside the ship, the stars bent around a growing dark shape. It didn't fly, it just existed, and that was enough to bend space. And inside, Neilira stood calm, glowing faintly. A tear ran down her cheek. "They're coming," she whispered, "and we have only one place to run." She placed her hand on the navigation panel, and it obeyed. The ship dove into gate space. The stars exploded into lines, and Jace, once again, had no control. He was no longer a pilot. He was a witness. The seduction of steel, and Fire Commander Jace Morrow no longer recognized his own ship. What once was cold steel and blinking lights had transformed into something else, something living. The walls now pulsed with a slow, steady rhythm. Symbols glowed softly underfoot. The halls were no longer straight, they curved gently, like the inside of a vast, sleeping creature. And the air, it felt thick with memory. Jace walked in silence, through corridors that should have belonged to a machine, but they whispered like cathedrals. Every step echoed strangely, like something far away was listening. He entered the control chamber and found her there again. Neilira, no longer a fragile, old alien, no longer a woman in need of rescue. She now stood at the ship's central core, her arms lifted, her body glowing with golden threads of light flowing through her veins. Her hair shimmered with silver fire. Her skin looked smoother, more alive than any humans. The ship responded to her thoughts now. Panels opened without command. Engines adjusted without touch. The ship had chosen her, and Jace knew it. "What have you done to my vessel?" he asked. Neilira didn't turn around. "It's not just a ship, Jace. It never was. You thought it was yours. But this vessel was grown, not built. It was designed to awaken only when one of my kind touched its heart." She turned to face him. Her eyes were no longer just glowing, they were shining with galaxies inside them. "And you," she said softly, "were the one chosen to carry the flame back to the stars, Jace stepped back. I didn't choose any of this, but you did, she whispered, walking toward him slowly. You heard a weak signal. You stopped. You opened the hatch. You helped a stranger. You saved me without question. And the universe noticed. Jace looked away. I thought I was helping someone. Broken. Nealira smiled faintly. You were. But broken things remember who helped them. And they repay that kindness. She raised a hand and touched the wall. It shifted, instantly showing a map of the galaxy. But this map wasn't like anything Jace had ever seen. Stars were alive. They moved. They danced. They whispered. One area glowed darker than the rest. The hollow zone. That is where the hollow ones live, she said, and they are waking. Soon, they will spread again, consuming thought, memory, time. Jace clenched his fists. Then let's warn the colonies. Let's fight. Nealira walked toward him, slowly, her voice low. There is no war that can be fought with weapons, she said. They don't fear bullets. They erase the reasons you fired them. She paused, then added softly, we must light the old thrones again, restore what was lost. And for that, I need a companion, a flame-bearer. Her hand reached out. Jace hesitated. He had seen her kindness, but he had also seen her power. The way the ship bent to her will, the way time seemed to slow when she entered a room, the way his thoughts drifted when she looked at him. He was still, trying to figure out if she was blessing him or slowly consuming him. He lowered his voice. Why me? She tilted her head. Because you are still human enough to feel and broken enough to follow. Her fingers brushed his temple. In that moment, Jace fell into a vision. He was not in the ship anymore. He stood beside Nealira on a battlefield made of glass above them. Two stars collided, frozen in time. Around them floated soldiers made of starlight and memory, and in front of them a great black hand reached across space. A voice boomed, out of the void, or be unmade. But Nealira stood tall. She turned to Jace and whispered, I would rather burn. Jace gasped and fell backward, landing hard in the ship's corridor. The vision ended. Nealira stood over him, her hand now withdrawn, her expression unreadable. You see now, she said quietly, this is not just a journey, it is a return. Jace tried to stand. His chest burned not with pain, but with fire. Something had entered him. He felt it, something old, alive. Watching from within, she offered her hand again. This ship was once mine. Now it is yours too, but you must decide. Jace looked around. The ship pulsed like a heartbeat. The stars outside had changed. They were now bright trails of color, streaming past as the vessel moved beyond normal space. He took her hand, only to stand up, not to surrender. I'm not yours, he said firmly. But if you're right, if this threat is real, then I'll help stop it. Not for your throne, but for the people who still believe the stars belong to everyone. Nealira smiled genuinely. This time, that is why I chose you, she said. You remind me of who I once was. Suddenly, alarms blared. Gate breach detected. The ship's voice announced. Jace turned to the screen. A tiered space had opened behind them. From it, long black tendrils reached out, twisting through the void. Something was trying to pull them back. Nealira turned serious. They found us. They've tasted your mind. They want what's inside you now. Jace's eyes narrowed. Then let's give them something they'll never forget. He gripped the controls, not to escape, but to fight. The man who once rescued a dying stranger was gone. In his place stood a man now bonded to something ancient, something alive. And together, they were ready to burn down the dark. The throne of forgotten gods' stars fell silent as the ship crossed the final threshold. Jace. Morrow stood at the viewport, watching as the universe around him bent and shimmered. The jump gate had closed behind them. There was no going back. Before him spun a dying system, 3 suns chained together by gravity, casting fractured light across broken moons and scorched planets, and at its heart, orbiting a dim blue giant, was Alaria, the ancient world. The lost throne, the place where Neolira once ruled. It was destroyed. The planet did not spin like normal worlds. It hovered, locked in place, held steady by invisible forces. Its skies were blood orange, and vast rings of crystal debris floated above it like a shattered crown. Great machines, long dead, drifted in silent remnants of a war that had never been written in any human record. The ship began descending slowly. Neolira stood beside Jace, silent, her eyes focused and unreadable. She had changed again. Her skin now glowed faintly, and the cracks of power that had once flickered beneath her surface were now bold lines of fire. Her posture, once calm and graceful, was now regal, commanding, a queen returning to her ruin. Castle.jace broke the silence. Is this what's left of your empire? Neolira nodded. This is where the stars sang in my name, and where silence took them away. They landed softly inside a wide structure made of bone-white stone and golden metal. The landing gate opened automatically, though it had not been touched for centuries. The walls whispered in a language Jace didn't know, but it echoed in his mind, like a lullaby from a forgotten childhood. He stepped onto the ground and felt it hum. The world itself remembered her. Neolira walked ahead. As she moved, the ruins responded. Lights flared, doors opened, statues wept golden tears. The planet was not dead, it was asleep, waiting. Jace followed, trying to process it all. Why did they turn against you? He asked. Neolira didn't stop walking. Because I broke the pact. I gave technology to lesser races. I showed mortals how to build faster ships, stronger minds. My council feared what kindness could lead to. They believed love would make the cosmos weak. She paused at a tall gate, placing her hand on a glowing symbol, and so she whispered, They took everything from me. The gate opened slowly, revealing the throne hall of Alaria. Jace stepped inside and stopped cold. It wasn't just a room, it was a temple of light. Columns of crystal rose into infinity. Starlight poured through cracks in the ceiling. The floor was a mirror that reflected the sky. At the center stood a throne unlike any he'd seen, made of meteors and veins of light, held together by pure gravity, and carved around it, like a ring of judgment, were names. Thousands of them, etched in stone. Those are the ones who died for me, Neolira said quietly. She walked to the throne, but didn't sit. Instead, she knelt. Jace blinked. You're not taking the throne. Neolira placed a hand on the base. I don't need to sit to rule. Power is no longer in the seat, it's in the memory. Suddenly, the room darkened. The mirrors beneath them faded, and the air thickened. Jace turned fast. Dark shadows had entered, long, thin shapes, gliding across the room like liquid night. They didn't walk, they hovered. They had no faces, only smooth, black forms with long arms and glowing centers, the hollow ones. Neolira stood tall. They've come to erase what's left. The shadows surrounded them, circling. Jace felt the cold grip tighten on his mind. Memories began to fade. Names, faces, voices from his childhood, his first ship, his old commander. He gritted his teeth. They're taking my thoughts. They are not here to kill, Neolira said grimly. They consume meaning. They will leave you alive but empty. Jace fell to one knee, holding his head. Then Neolira did something strange. She began to sing. Her voice echoed through the hall, not in words, but in vibrations, deep, haunting, beautiful. The song struck the hollow ones like light breaking stone. They hissed, wavered, shrank back. The throne responded, glowing brighter, humming louder. The names carved in stone lifted into the air like dust and burned with fire. Neolira walked into the center of the room, her eyes burning white. She raised both hands. I may have been forgotten, she cried, but the throne remembers me, and so will you. The hollow one screamed a sound not of anger, but of pain. They twisted, cracked, and then melted into shadows once more. Jace struggled to stand, his mind slowly clearing. You fought them with memory, he whispered. Neaira turned, smiling faintly. They cannot erase what is remembered together. That is their weakness. Then she walked back to him. But there's a cost, she said quietly, to revive the throne. I had to give part of myself. He looked closer. Her hair had grayed. Her hands trembled slightly. She was aging again. You said this throne doesn't rule anymore. Jace said, It doesn't. She replied, It calls. Jace felt it to now, deep in his chest. A sound, a pull, like something far away had heard them. Neaira whispered, and now, they're coming. Jace didn't need to ask who, because he already knew the forgotten gods were. Waking up and next time, they would not send shadows, they would come themselves. As the last fragment of the dead moon drifted past their ship, the silence inside the control room grew heavy. Commander Ryan sat still, staring at the dark screen where the ancient star map had once glowed. The alien grandma, now fully transformed into a radiant being with eyes like galaxies, stood behind him. Her glow had dimmed slightly, and a strange sadness rested on her face. You still don't understand, she whispered, her voice echoing like wind through a canyon. The feast has begun. We are already late. Ryan turned sharply. What feast? The Galactic Feast of Shadows, she replied, held once every 1,000 years. The lords of hunger gather, and they feed not on food, but on memory, on trust, on truth itself. The words chilled him. He remembered now little things gone missing from his mind. Faces of his childhood, names of fallen comrades, moments that should have meant something. All fading. The ship shook. Outside, the stars flickered, not from light, but from movement. Huge, slow creatures crawled through the black of space. Shadow beasts, made of broken time and shattered thought. Their forms twisted reality. One blinked, and Ryan saw himself as a child again, then as an old man, then nothing. They found us, Grandma said quietly. But I saved you, Ryan said, almost shouting. I trusted you. She turned to him, pain in her eyes, and I love that trust. But trust, like all things, draws predators in this part of the galaxy. With that, she opened her hand in. Inside was his name. Not a paper, not a voice recording. His actual name, glowing faintly in her palm like a dying star. They took it, she said. I saved it. Ryan's throat tightened. Suddenly, he couldn't remember what his full name even was. You must go to the core, she said. There's a place deep within the feeding spiral, the archive. It holds everything ever taken by the feast. But how do we get there? He asked. And what will we face? She hesitated. The ship will take you, but I cannot go. He stepped forward. Why not? Her form shimmered. She no longer looked old, no longer even looked alien. She looked like energy trapped in a dream, because I have already been tasted. The ship's alarm rang one long, mournful sound. A shadow tendril had touched the outer hull. Systems blinked, cameras died. The lights dimmed. We need to move, Ryan shouted, grabbing the controls. But Grandma did not follow. She stood by the window, watching the creatures come closer. Her voice was calm now, like it belonged to a story told long ago. They were my punishment, she said, for loving a world not my own, for giving one human boy too much power, too much heart. And now, the galaxy remembers. Before he could stop her, she touched the wall and disappeared into it. The ship jolted forward. The engines roared. Coordinates locked in. A new star map appeared, leading them into the feeding spiral dot as the ship raced into unknown space. Ryan sat alone in the control room. The shadows screamed behind them. Unable to follow not yet, he whispered softly, "I'll get it back. My name, my memories, everything they took." But he didn't know the cause dot behind him. A small console lit up. A message from her. Just one line. "If you reach the archive, don't read what they took from me." The ship entered the spiral. Time twisted. Reality bent dot and Commander Ryan name. Stolen. Heart fractured set course for the archive. Not knowing that the true feast had only just begun, the spiral was endless. Commander Ryan watched the stars blur into streaks of white and red. The feeding spiral wasn't like normal space. It was ancient, hungry, alive. His ship groaned as it moved deeper into the fold, where thoughts tangled and memories grew teeth. The archive was close now. He could feel it. The navigation system no longer worked. The map twisted itself like a snake trying to eat its tail. Time pulsed in strange ways. His wounds healed faster, but the clock said it had only been seconds. The deeper he went, the less real everything became. He didn't sleep. He didn't eat. He didn't remember why he came, only that something had been taken, something sacred. Then the ship stopped. No command, no warning. Just stillness. Outside the window was a giant black cube, floating quietly in the nothingness, smooth, seamless, as big as a planet, not glowing, not threatening, just waiting. Ryan stepped off the ship and walked across an invisible bridge that formed beneath his feet, each step echoing like thunder in his ears. The air, or whatever this place had instead of air, was cold, but it didn't freeze. It whispered instead, not in a language, but in emotion, fear, regret, desire. The moment he stepped into the cube, the silence shattered. Whispers rushed in from all directions. He doesn't remember his real name. He came for her. He was supposed to die in the crash. She broke the rule. She gave him choice. Ryan gritted his teeth. Shut up. But they did in single quotes T. The archive's walls were made of memory. Giant shelves, glowing panels, floating light orbs, each holding a stolen truth, a forgotten soul, a name lost in time. Some whispered softly, others screamed. Ryan didn't know where to start, but the archive did. A glowing thread of golden light extended from the ceiling and wrapped gently around his wrist, pulling him forward like a guide. He followed it through impossible rooms, some filled with dancing shadows, others with frozen moments, a child's laughter caught in a jar, a dying soldier's whisper saved in crystal, a mother's scream trapped in fire. The thread pulled him to a door. Unlike the rest of the archive, this door looked real, wooden, old, like it belonged in a cabin on Earth. He pushed it open and stepped into his own past. It was the desert crash site again, his first meeting with the alien grandma. Only now, he saw it from above, like watching a movie, but it wasn't exactly the same. This version had more detail, more truth. He saw her hand tremble before she touched him, saw her weep when he wasn't looking, heard her whisper something to the stars, "Forgive me." Ryan watched in silence. The vision ended. The golden thread tightened and pulled him further, room after room. He saw the real story, not the one he lived, but the one hidden from him. The truth was simple and terrifying. The alien grandma wasn't just a cosmic being. She was a keeper of names. Her job was to collect the last memory of dying species and protect them in the archive. She wasn't supposed to interfere. She wasn't allowed to save anyone, but she did. She saved Ryan. She took a piece of her eternal power and gave it to him, not just to heal, but to change fate. That was the crime. That was why the shadows hunted them. Because when Ryan survived, he became a breach in the system, a living soul with energy meant only for the dead. She broke the law of the universe. For him. And now, the universe was breaking back. In the final room, the thread led him to a small glass case. Inside, glowing softly, was a tiny orb of blue light. His name, his true name, not just Ryan, not just the military title. Held his entire story, his dreams, his mother's lullabies, his father's sacrifice, his childhood fears, the first time he fell in love, the moments he wanted to forget, the ones he didn't know he lost. It was all there. And beside it was a second orb, hers. A warning flared across the wall. Do not open hers. But he couldn't stop staring. Her orb pulsed with a strange, sad rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Ryan took his orb and held it to his chest. Light surged into him. The archive shook. The shadows screamed. But he didn't let go. The memories rushed in, sweet, painful, pure. He remembered who he was, and more importantly, he remembered why she had chosen to break the law for him. Tears rolled down his cheeks. He turned to leave, but he looked back at her orb. At the warning, his hand trembled. Was he brave enough to know everything, even the parts she didn't want him to see? Even the parts that might destroy the image he had of her. He reached out, touched the glass. And everything shattered.